Howdy, folks. This is Ted Lasso, your favorite optimistic American football coach turned English football coach. And welcome to the Richmond Way, a Ted Lasso rewatch podcast. So grab your biscuits, put on your AFC Richmond scarf, and let's embark on this journey together.
Whistle!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Richmond Way. This is match 6 for episode 6 of Ted Lasso. The episode in question is called Two Aces, and I have two aces with me. They are somewhere on the screen. I'm not going to try the stage direction this time because I always get it wrong because I'm going to point that way. Oh, look at it. See, this time I did it right. So Bonnie's over here, Mike's up there. We're all here, there, and everywhere.
I'm more of that instruction card you throw away. Let's be honest.
True. But those are the best instruction cards, aren't they?
No one's ever read those instruction cards, have they?
Or you could be an instruction card that Craig Ferguson goes to do his show and just rips it up and then just throws it in the air before he even reads it. Just do that. Do that.
Don't remember that. Not gonna lie.
But anyways, Two Aces, not to be confused with the classic Spin Doctor Princes from the 90s. What do you guys think of this episode as an overall, just your stream of consciousness for it? Whoever wants to go.
Stream of consciousness. Well, I'll go. Why not?
Why not?
It was definitely a good writing example episode, I guess, on like plant and payoff. And how to, I don't know if the other term I'm trying to think of, there's a term for it probably, where it's like you start off on this really somber moment from the last time of Ted filing away his wedding ring for the final time. Then they build you up like, oh, everything's going great, just to dash your hopes. But
I mean,
with the plant and payoff,
just let me go.
There you go.
Push
With
me around.
Rebecca bringing up Man City just casually, semi-casually, I think, because it's a weird thing, that whole loan a player thing. I didn't know that was until this show happened. I never knew that was a thing.
Oh yeah.
So for her to mention it, you're kind of like, oh, that's gonna happen. But then all this camaraderie in the end. But Rebecca's pissed about it because Higgins, really, he's like the catalyst for her to switch back to I'm going to destroy this team mode.
Yeah.
And then she blows it up, and it brings out the angry Ted, more human Ted, I would say. Like,
Not even
which
Led
helps-
Picasso, but just like angry Ted.
yeah, it's just another side of him you haven't seen yet, which helps bring more roundedness to his character, not just the Ned Flanders all the time.
Yeah.
Even though he is still very Ned Flanders when he's mad.
That's true.
But that was a good change of pace, I guess. Having the somber stuff and having the anger, having not everything be so bubbly, happy, positive. Which I know if Kenny's listening, he'll be like, just because it's dark doesn't make it's good.
Okay.
It was just a good change of pace from what we've had already, I thought. It was nicely written and nicely done.
Nice. How about you, Bonnie?
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to second a lot of what Mike said. A lot of that, like seeing somebody react to that and that he's just himself. And of course, you know, it makes him more real that he's not going to be the Ned Flanders happy-go-lucky guy when he's going through something like that. And they noticed that. They noticed there was something. And
Yeah.
I think even though like Ted really laid into Jamie in that, and I think I wrote in the notes, I was like, honestly, I'm here for it. Like, if
Yeah.
that makes me a mean person, then so be it. But like,
Roy was there for that too.
yeah, 100%. But like, I think it makes Ted more endearing, and that may not have been the goal of that, but it made him more real. You're like, yeah, man, you're going through it. You're not always gonna behave properly when you're trying to process these things, and like, it just made it more real, and I appreciated that. And I also loved all the spooky things in this episode. That made me happy. I was like, more spooky shit. So I was very excited about that. Yeah.
400 ghosts.
Yeah.
That's too many
Mhm.
ghosts.
Like around the release of Ghostbusters, I made like a post on our Richmond Way Instagram thing that was like all just ghosts related stuff from Ted Lasso, and a lot of the stuff was from this episode, which was kind of funny. Um, what you were talking about there too, Bonnie, with like what you and Roy especially were getting joy out of, I thought was seeing the show too. Like Ted says something to Nate like about it, like because when Nate's like saying that he was getting joy out of it, and Ted stated that it was a no Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
I must say, it's quite nice seeing Jamie put in his place for once. Thrilling, even, isn't it?
No. This is the no Schadenfreude zone, right?
9 Schadenfreude.
All right.
Zone. Yeah, which I had to look up what that was because
I've only ever heard
forgot
the
what
term.
it was. Yeah, it's basically the experience of pleasure, joy, or self-satisfaction that comes from learning of or witnessing the troubles, failures, or humiliation.
Well, I had a note on that. It's like I shouldn't be laughing at what Roy's doing, but it's just too sweet. It's
Mhm.
just
There's a fun
And-
song about Schadenfreude in Avenue Q, the musical, if you ever want to check that out.
Avenue
It's
Q.
Avenue Q. It's like Sesame Street for grown-ups with puppets.
Nice.
And I saw it my 18th birthday when I was in New York. And there's swearing and puppet sex, and it's like Rent meets Sesame Street is probably the
Are
best
you
way to
sure
put
you
it.
weren't watching Team America World Police?
I'm 100% positive because I
Or
saw that
whatever
when
that
I was
movie-
13 with my parents.
Nice.
But yes, Schadenfreude is happiness at the misfortune of others. And it's a whole song about it, and it's wonderful. So
Triple high five
Well-
for making all of our parents bring us to R-rated movies before we were 17.
hmm
My parents brought me. I don't know what was Forrest Gump rated R?
Yes, mostly
Then
for probably swearing.
yeah, they brought me to that when I was 6. So,
There you go. Whatever.
but with Ted's quote,
And yeah, here we are talking about you missing practice. We talking about practice. You understand me? Practice. Not a game. Not a game. Not the game you go out there and die for, right? Play every weekend like it's your last, right? No, we talking about practice, man. Practice. You know you're supposed to be out there. You know you're supposed to lead by example. You're just shoving that all aside. And so here we are, Jamie. We're talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game. We're talking about practice with your team, with your teammates. The only place that we get to play together, we got control over. Rest of the time, it's us 11 against those 11. We're talking about practice, man. I'm talking about practice, and you can't do it because you're hurt. Right? It's fine by me. Tell you what, do me a favor. When you get out there, set the cone so the other reserves can do a little passing.
Ted's quote here, speech or tirade to Jamie, the only
Oh,
issue
yeah.
I have with it is it kind of just like what Kevin Hart did with their
But-
latest commercial. It's taking the Allen Iverson famous press conference where he's going off about practice and just like reciting it.
Yeah.
Which, okay, it's the comedy aspect of it, and maybe Jamie's not going to know that, but it was just too close. And I was like, maybe change it a little more. I don't know.
I liked it only just because I could see it from the point of view, at least from like the Jason Sudeikis point of view, of like him being like a huge like basketball fan too, of just trying to incorporate kind of stuff like that in there too. Maybe just the same way like they have incorporated like references, you know, like to Back to the Future already in there, and just maybe him like kind of slipping like some like sports references in there because we already know like this show is like semi sort of a little bit like Major League and conceit a little bit, but then it's like takes that conceit and then goes off this way with it. So, but yeah,
the
I
only
mean,
thing I could
go ahead.
rationalize with it in my head was Ted doesn't know how to yell at someone, so he uses this as the tirade because he thinks it makes him sound like he's yelling or something. Like,
Yeah.
so out of his element that this is stuck in his head because of that's what he thinks anger is.
hmm
That's true.
Yeah.
and because I skipped it, really, I'm just gonna read the short synopsis for this episode. When Jamie refuses to train, Ted turns to talented new signing Danny Rojas, and the team is struck by an age-old curse. So there, I've said it. Which I'm glad that Danny Rojas is finally here too. I said off mic to Mike that I hadn't had Danny Rojas up here in the background, and I was making a conscious choice to wait to put him up here until he showed up in the show. So now the cast kind of feels complete at this point, because now like we have like all of our major players on the team.
Zorro's not there yet, is he?
I think we've seen him in the background.
Zorro.
Yeah, they just haven't like haven't given him his like name yet, but I believe
They haven't
Zorro
given him
has
his name
like,
yet. He hasn't earned it.
It's not damn yet. That's way off still. But yeah, I was glad to see Danny Ross show up here, just because Danny Ross, like he is on the show in this episode, kind of brings like this new kind of life and like effervescence, like joy coming from just like this one character, which for Ted in this episode is kind of something he needs externally too. So it's cool that even though technically Danny has kind of already been there, but he was just hurt and is now just coming back, the timing here where like he's coming and joining the team, kind of like when Ted needs like this little bit of like a boost to his life, is I enjoyed that, and like I just like Christopher Fernandez as Danny Ross in here too, and just like him singing his name.
His name?
Like, yeah, Danny Rojas, Danny Rojas.
Danny Rojas, Rojas, Danny Rojas, Rojas, Danny Rojas. Hey, hello coaches. Thank you for the opportunity.
You are a spirited fella, Danny. Just go on out there and get the striker spot for us, okay?
Yes. Just like back in Guadalajara. You say it, I do it, coach. Football is life.
Also, I don't know if that's problematic with me saying his name. I'm not trying to do like I'm just gonna, I don't know.
Don't worry about it.
Anyways, yeah. Anyways, football is life. That's like one of the other major awesome quotes that comes from the shows, becomes like another, defining quote or saying from Ted Lasso is born within this episode as well too. And I just like in general, I just really liked all that they did with Danny here too. Like they kind of had that little bit of back and forth with him and Jamie, and somewhere like mid episode too, that I like, where they're like, just playing like an older kind of like training like soccer.
Hit the crossbar, call your shot, or whatever.
Yeah, and stuff. Just, and you kind of start to see Jamie like kind of shed a little bit of the cool guy, always having to be whatnot.
I noted it
ever
as it's
so
the
slightly
competition Jamie needs. Like he's not pushed there. Nobody's pushing him. So why does he have to try? Now he's got this guy who is effortlessly, but like equal or better than him, not caring, just having fun. It's what Jamie needed and what he was missing and lacking from this team, because he played on Man City and they're like, you're not good enough. We're going to loan you over to this team, because Man City is obviously the pinnacle.
Yeah.
So he's already butthurt for that.
Insert gif of that, of like the soccer game thing where like they shoot like that, I don't know what that, like cooling or whatever thing down like the soccer players like shorts. Look it up. It'll be here if you're watching this in the future. But yeah, there's like some weird gif of like in a soccer game where like someone's like shooting like this cooling stuff down like a soccer player's back of his shorts, which he must have got like.
What site did you see this on?
It's just a gif. It's just a gif.
Before we go too far, Bonnie and I both made a note about the angle when Ted and Jamie are talking.
Oh yeah, I had that in there too with about the Dutch angle, that kind of in like two of those.
I didn't see it with yours.
Yeah, there's like those. There's only two shots with it, but it's like.
Well, yeah, it helps tell the story. Ted has no power. Ted is at his low point. Jamie's at a low point, but he has all the power in that scene, because what's Ted gonna do? He's not gonna what can he do but other than make him set up cones? Like,
And yeah, I liked the use of that in this episode too, just because it's kind of like the first, I don't know, like artsy, like framing of a shot that they've done really outside of just just normal kind of like
mm,
camera setting and
Yeah.
whatnot.
It was very jarring to see that and go like, oh, he's really sideways, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's not right. Yeah.
Now, like during like the whole scene too, like before, like as we got into that, you two were kind of saying it too with like how like the opening here with like Ted, he's kind of like feeling the heaviness of like where we ended like the last episode with like like taking off his like wedding ring and whatnot, and then just like all out of sorts and like full on like the open of the episode, just like putting his shirt on backwards and then looping it around. He's just like all these like over
talking
exaggerated.
faster than he ever does.
Yeah, it's like his the classic thing to show that someone's like going through of like if they have hair, to make their hair like messy and whatnot, to show that they're kind of unkempt because of that. And the part of that I liked there too is like the whole thing where he's like, when a word becomes a sound, what's that called again? Semantic
Plan.
satiation.
Plan.
Yeah, which
Flan?
then when he's talking to Rebecca about that, she says something about flan, or like that's the plan with flan.
Flan.
He's like flan.
Flan.
And
I
he's
don't
like,
like that.
he's like, no, I don't like flan. So I was like, nice. But and then I just liked all of that kind of stuff there at the beginning of it, because it's like you were saying there too, like there's a somber beginning, and we'll eventually get to the somber ending of the episode. So it's like somber bookends, which kind of sounds like an emo rock band.
It
Name.
kind of does. Yeah.
Yeah. Somber bookends. New album dropping this Friday. But was there like anything like outside of like that, like in the opening, or like as we meet Danny, and just like Higgins telling Rebecca, before we get to like the Higgins Rebecca Keeley scene, was there anything like in like those scenes that we haven't stuck on yet that stuck out to either of you?
Ted's desperation almost to use pet names with Beard and Nate.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just
That was
doing that somewhere
a
else.
weird thing. They'll be like, "Can I call you honey? Can I call you?" He calls Nate
Yeah.
sweetie.
Yeah, I
That
thought
was
that-
Yeah. Attempt at connection, I think.
Mhm.
That's how
And
I
then when he
read it.
leaves, and Nate's like, "What's going on with him?" And he's just like, "Michelle, oh, is he gonna be okay?" And Beard's like, "No."
No. Cue the music.
Just quite the reaction to that.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing there too is that I like that Isaac and Colin are kind of like sticking up to Jamie here too at the beginning of this episode there as
Mhm.
well. And then like from there we get like the scene with like Higgins and Rebecca and Keeley. Keeley's doing more of like her looking into like the bios of the players and whatnot, and like what she wants to do. She has the binder that says unicorn on it,
Mhm.
and Rebecca says something like, "Could you have found one that didn't have the word unicorn on it?" And Keeley tells her to fuck off, and Higgins is like, "Oh."
I was just imagining what it was like if I told you to F off.
And like we kind of touched on it, but like from like what you two have already been saying with like how Rebecca ends up acting in this episode, I think mostly it comes here from this episode, or not this episode, but like this scene where Keeley gives her this news about like, because Rupert is with Bex, and Bex is short for Rebecca, that, and so Rebecca assumes that they're calling her new Rebecca, but no, it's actually that they're calling
Actually
her
worse.
old Rebecca. So I like here too that Keeley's kind of trying to soften that for her too.
Yeah.
But like, as far as like, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Like, as far as like I feel like it's brewing under like the surface for Rebecca for like most of the rest of the episode after she finds that out.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Sorry. Yes. I jumped in like, yeah, 100%. 100%. It you can tell it absolutely bothered her, and it feels like every time she starts to make a little progress and starts to feel better, there's something somebody says. There's still, she's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Screw this guy. I'm good. I'm good. And then something happens that just kind of pushes her back a little bit and is like, no, you're not over it yet. Here's something else you need to work through. And
Right.
that's hard, like when it's very public for her, and she's going through that, and there's just no reprieve. It's just, there's something else. And then it's that, like, well, what is she going to do now?
Yeah.
Is she going to let it, is she going to sit in that pain and be not great, or is she going to rise above it? And that's, we see that back and forth with her.
Yeah. Even with like to cut ahead a tiny bit, like with the scene with like where everyone's burning stuff, where like even like her things just happens to be like like today's newspaper, and she just throws it in there. She's like, it's got something in there that's probably about me that I'm trying to ignore. F the haters.
Oh, it's also crazy to me the amount of attention her and Rupert's relationship gets from the news. Like, maybe it's just because I'm not like in the culture over there, and like the soccer, football owners, the club owners, and all that are pseudo celebrities. Because it's like very rarely do you see much about any sports team owner over here.
Yeah.
There are like, besides the bigger teams, the only one that comes to mind is Jerry Jones of the Cowboys. He's like the only one whose name you see the most. Besides the Buffalo Bills, I couldn't tell you the name of any other owner. And it's just like the fact that their headlines are constantly about her and Rupert. Like, granted, it's the Sun, which I'm kind of being led to believe is a tabloid of sorts.
Yeah, it
But-
is. It's basically the National Enquirer here in the U.S. Yeah. The only football team owner I could tell you is Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds for the Wrexham AFC.
Yeah.
And then I know that like J.J. Watt, and his wife's name's escaping me, who is a soccer player here in the U.S. They're like part owners of a team in the UK as well too. But that's where my knowledge begins and ends for all of that.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's probably maybe slightly like within this too because of like the circumstances of like that Rupert was like cheating.
Well, yeah, obviously,
on
it's
Rebecca, and
also
just,
being
like,
written in.
he's, super wealthy because usually want to list all that kind of stuff in the papers there too. And then the conversation like Ted and Beard have in the stadium, or not the stadium, but in the like the practice bleachers there too, where they start talking about Jamie and Danny and about the two aces there, and then they have the kind of word associate like losing meaning again there, and it comes to like aces to ISIS.
That's the word, yeah.
Aces.
Aces.
Aces?
Oh, no, I'm in there.
See?
Aces? Okay, good. Aces. I hope it's not contagious.
Aces.
Aces. Aces.
Aces? Aces.
Aces. ISIS.
No, that sounds like ISIS.
I did say ISIS. I didn't mean to. Okay, what if we cloned the lead guitarist from Kiss? You'd have two.
Freelies.
And he's like, sounds like you just said ISIS. Right? He's like, yeah.
I did.
Like that one caught me so off guard that I like laughed really like mildly at that, and I was like, well, I don't even know why that, like, of all the jokes in this made me like laugh the hardest. I think it was because it was just like out of nowhere, just threw me off.
That's because it's funny.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's because it's funny.
And then
You don't need to have a reason to laugh.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And then for whatever reason, I thought that Roy had finished A Wrinkle in Time in the
I
last
thought that too.
episode.
He was like in the
'Cause
same spot.
Yeah. So,
It
don't
just
know
could
if he
be how
just reads
Brett's
really-
holding the book.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
maybe.
really what I thought. Is he's just holding it,
Yeah, he's like reads it really quickly up to a certain point, and then it takes him a week to finish that last chapter.
drawing it out. Doesn't want it
yeah.
to end.
I liked this a little bit more too with like him and Keely there on the treadmills too, which is probably like the only time I've ever seen a shot where someone wearing high heels like on a treadmill. So like outside of Bryce Dallas Howard in Jurassic World, I think that's like the only time I've seen someone in like an I guess athletic situation where they were wearing high heels. I mean, I guess Keely's only just walking on it, but I liked how her explanation there was that she was acting like they were walking together, like in the park.
Well, we're led to believe in Psych that Juliet runs in heels all the time. So, but they never show it. But she's always wearing them when they're running. They're supposedly wearing them.
I'm just gonna assume that would be hard to do. So, I'm assuming walking.
I was gonna say I'll have to defer to Bonnie on that
Yeah.
one because
Does it hurt? I'm assuming they just hurt in general as shoes to wear.
They're not supposed to, but they do. But apparently now they are making some that don't. And I would be very interested to try those because, especially, I haven't worn them in so long. And especially with like just working from home and not necessarily having to like go to work and wear them. I am not looking forward to how much they are going to hurt when I put them on again.
It'll just be that scene from Barbie where it, like it goes from your foot like this to.
Those are my feet, yeah. It's my feet anyways. It's cool. Although I don't know, maybe I'm weird Barbie. I don't know. It's entirely possible.
That's the best one in the movie. Why is she always in the splits? Oh man.
But yeah, walking in, I think they say like Mariah Carey does that. I've seen videos of her on social media where she's on the elliptical in heels and walking on the treadmill in heels because it's Mariah Carey and she can. Yeah, that's not fun. I saw that and I went, ah. So yeah, not typically great. But if I find a comfy pair, I'll let you know.
Nice.
I mean, we could go back 300 years when men wore the high heels and women wore the flat shoes.
Ah, yes, and men played all the women in Shakespeare times too.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
By candlelight.
Side note, in Brett Goldstein's show, he said that plays, that we all know that musicals are amazing and plays are boring. And that everybody that comes out to a musical does like this face as they come out.
Jazz hands, spirit fingers.
And speaking of jazz hands, the treatment room is cursed. So, this ends up kind of being like the through line of the episode too. And I think this is also like one of like the first times that we see like all of the team together, like outside of the practice Nelson Road setting. Like they're all just like one of like the first kind of, I don't know, like field trips that Ted takes the team on. And then we get this cool kind of backstory with like May giving them like the whole backstory of like
May and Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like how there was essentially like
Why does she have that poster?
Well, because I mean, I feel, isn't it like that whole pub is just meant to be like themed to Richmond, right?
Couldn't
I don't know. So I think she just has
never paid that much attention to what the theme of the pub is.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So I think it's just so what that was that it was like a recruitment poster for like basically getting people to sign up for the military, but it was used to like dupe all of these younger men like back.
World War One.
Was it World War One? Okay. Yeah. So then there's like, oh, you can try out for the team, but there actually was no tryouts for the team, and then they'd be like, oh, but you can do this instead, and then most of them didn't come back. So it was, and then they talk about there being 400 souls, and this is like, I think most of us had this on here for like our quotes. It's like 400 ghosts. That's too many ghosts.
We got 400 ghosts.
That's too many ghosts. We cannot fight them all.
We're not going to have to fight them, Rashad.
Wait, so Coach, how do we fix this? We can't change the past.
No, Sam. No, we cannot. But we can choose to honor it.
Ghosts. We cannot fight them all.
It's not enough ghosts for me.
I mean, they could be friendly. They could be, you know, stage 5.
That just
spectral.
reminds me of the Aziz Ansari joke about ghosts aren't being scary when they go ooh. They've never seen a light switch. They're going ooh, look at that.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Like 400 Ghosts is just a family reunion at my mom's. All my dead Italian relatives. It's 400 Ghosts. Anyways.
I realized I just like went into the De Niro, as you said, Italians. I was like,
Yeah. That's what happens.
And speaking of De Niro, they have a discussion of Martin Scorsese film here, and this is another like kind of thing that ends up being a thing in Ted Lasso 2, where they have like all these like, it's very Tarantino-esque, where it's like there's like scenes that are just like them talking about like film or like in the show, like stage shows.
Well, they don't
or
act like they're in a
musicals and
different universe where the things
yeah,
we
where
know.
it's like that's only but I like how they're all like naming off basically like what they think is like their like the best Scorsese film, like and then the joke there with like Roy being like, silence. And then just that
free whistle.
Yeah, that maze like it's Mean Streets. But yeah, I love.
I mean, I do agree. Departed was not his best work.
It was a very good movie, but not the best Scorsese.
And when Lucas and Spielberg came out, and I was like, "Oh, Scorsese's going to win the Oscar." Like,
yeah.
Even though they supposedly don't know, it seemed.
Like count of 3, favorite Scorsese film. 1, 2, 3. We all
I gotta
said
think
at the
about
same
it.
time.
No, I need to like actively think about it.
I mean, Taxi Driver is pretty good. I've only seen that a couple times. I watch Goodfellas most, so I guess I'll go with that. But Taxi Driver's up there.
I'm gonna say Hugo, only because it is the movie that feels the most different from the rest of his filmography, and you can also tell that it's made by somebody that loves movies, just because of like, it's kind of like his Fablemans, although it's just not about him. Just because it's like about like, you know, like Georges Méliès and whatnot. So I think that one is my favorite Scorsese film.
The Aviator.
Wolf of Wall Street. Oh, he made that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Aviator is I finally just watched it, I think like in the past like 2 or 3 years. That is a really good movie.
It's a really good movie.
Anything Cate Blanchett does is great. So
that's true.
Or Katharine Hepburn. I can't. So good.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that one's my favorite.
Nice.
Not a bad choice. I forgot about it. Sadly.
Good eclectic 3 choices of Scorsese films.
Yeah. I did like Wolf of Wall Street though. Did like that a lot. I also saw
Can I change my vote to the Michael Jackson Bad video?
That's totally
you
fine.
can. He directed it. Whatever.
He did.
I think it counts.
I forgot about that.
Doom, 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 doom.
And like in here too, you get like another like little tipping of like another domino falling with Roy too, where Roy as the captain of the team backs Ted's plan with basically essentially to like cleanse like the treatment room by everybody, you know, taking whatever they love most, like something they cherish most, and they're gonna come to the practice field and burn it that night at midnight. And I think this is partly
spooky.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a Christmas episode that we'll eventually get to, but this could be like the Halloween episode of Ted Lasso.
Well, they don't celebrate Halloween in London, do they?
Yeah,
not the way we do.
Yeah,
I was wondering
Not
that.
the way I do.
Yeah. If we ever do a Halloween episode of
Why do I need a holiday to binge eat candy and fall asleep?
That's every
Wearing
night
a funny
for me.
costume.
I mean, that's why most holidays are made, so you could have an excuse to do them on that day. Uh, I just completely lost track of what I was talking about.
Talking about Spooky and
Oh, yeah.
how they were burning.
Oh, yes. So yeah, I think part of that is Ted kind of also processing all of his stuff that's going on. I don't think they show him burn anything.
Him or Beard don't put anything in.
Yeah, which I feel like he should have, and then it would have been interesting to see what Ted would have put in
I mean,
there,
he doesn't have
especially,
really anything
with the
besides
ti-
his
yeah.
wedding ring, I think, with him.
Yeah, and I think that would have burned. If it was gold, I don't know if that would have necessarily burned.
I don't think he was ready to do that.
Yeah.
No, God no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd probably have to shave off his mustache and put the hair clippings in there.
Just wax it
That's
off
And then it just smells like burnt hair. Although, what would
Burnt
Beard
hair.
put in there?
His beard,
A loaf of meth?
chessboard,
It would
Some
get-
Underwear. That's not
an
his.
axe.
Or a
He's got his
lynx?
axes with him. He can put in.
Axe. That kind of axe, not
Yeah.
not British lynx.
No.
But I like how,
How many
just
axes
as
does the man have to own?
as Ted is going to light the bin on
We
fire.
should do this outside.
It was like, we should probably do
What do you
this.
say we burn this crap?
Maybe we should do this part outside.
That's a good call. Probably do this outside. He's like, yeah, that's a smart choice, Beard. But in this too, we get all these cool little character moments that we learn a little bit more about some of the characters too, with Roy
Of the
talking
bit
about-
players.
Yeah, with Roy talking about his granddad and people giving him crap for being scared, and he's like, I was fucking 9.
Say something.
Sam burning the photo of the Nigerian team, which I liked, was a little. I have it in my foreshadowing there too, but with his goal of being on the team, which, spoiler alert, he will eventually be on that team. And we get Higgins' speech, or not speech, but his whole.
Oh yeah, I had that mark.
backstory about about.
That was
Cindy
another
Crawford.
plant and payoff moment.
Yeah.
Because it was planted in the first episode or two about his cat's gonna wreck him and then we get to this and he's got the collar and it's like, oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Dead cat.
I think I just like all the pun names for his cats too, between Cindy Crawford, and I think we find out the other names later on, but it's just a fun first thing. But and then you get this little bit more humanizing of Jamie here too, where he has this whole backstory, basically
When he was a
about-
sexy baby.
Yeah, when there's this sexy baby, and he burns his first cleats. He has
Boots.
this whole boots. Getting the boot, putting your boots in the boot.
The boot.
What's that all about?
You got the boot for putting your boots in
That
the
all
boot.
a boot.
What if you were a Canadian talking to someone from England about putting your boots in the boot? Talking a boot, putting your boots in the boot while you're getting the boot.
As someone who actually has a lot of Canadian counterparts right now, all of a sudden, I haven't heard them say a boot yet. I've heard them say a lot,
Interesting.
not a boot. And I'm a little upset by that.
Yeah, I like this story though too, that that Jamie says here too, basically, or his dad basically just
A little
tells him that
forced exposition never hurts.
Yeah, that he didn't want him to be soft, so he couldn't act certain ways and whatnot.
Well, because first how he did it for his mom to make her proud, even though she
Yeah.
would care less if he did well or not. And then his dad started showing up when the money started coming in,
Yeah, and he's and then
expecting dominance.
sometimes I forget to still make her proud and trying to not appear soft for him. So I like that little bit of foreshadowing and setup that we get there with Jamie. And I know that you have many thoughts about Jamie, Mike. So and his dad's relationship. So what did you think about this kind of scene that we first kind of get that info?
I mean, it was good to see. It gives you more character, more depth to Jamie, other than this, whatever you want to call him, douchebag. The only name that comes to mind.
Douche Squidward.
Because that's all he's been so far. And then it's like, oh, it's because you got this false bravado because that's what the guy who's beating you made you have in order to stop beating you,
Mhm.
essentially.
I think this was the first.
Physically and mentally, whatever it was.
episode where none of us had notes about Jamie sucking or being a douche.
Because we're starting to see more of the why. Because there's always, why does somebody act like that? They don't act like that for no reason. There's always a why, and it's usually some sort of, I'm not a therapist, but some sort of pain or trauma there or something that makes people act like that. It's usually something painful.
Yeah. Hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
And the other, it's not as like deep for Jamie, but a thing that I thought was funny in here too when he went and talked to Keeley was that he didn't know what the word Pavlovian meant. But he was kind of slowly understanding what it meant, but didn't know what the reference was. So I just enjoyed that kind of like whole scene with him not knowing what that was.
Mm-hmm.
And so like after they burn all of their stuff here too, we get like that Richmond till we die chant, which I always enjoy that scene a lot too. And then you can like see like the teams united there, and this kind of also upsets Rebecca, like we've been talking about, and she just kind of pieces out and walks out. From here.
This is where I was like, did the team being united upset her? Or does the fact that Higgins betrayed her upset her? More. Because she can't control the team being united, like, whatever.
Yeah.
But then when she finds out Higgins knew and helped rally the team, is when you see the tone change. Literally throwing the team's colors off her back.
Ruin this and destroy this. And because of that pain with the nickname, it's like, well, shit. Like, I've been betrayed by my closest confidant, and look at them. How am I supposed to do this? I think it was just exacerbated by her starting to make progress and feeling better and actually genuinely feeling better, and then getting taken a step back with that revelation. It just, I think she doesn't want to admit at this point that
she showed up to this thing for a reason, and I don't think it was to get mad enough to ship Jamie off. Like, maybe she was starting to buy in. Maybe she was feeling the change with Sam's speech, which I have a question on that in a second. But
oh yeah, I have that in my notes a little bit further down. Once
I was just like, she came for a reason, and then the Higgins thing was just like too much. That was him telling her to fuck off, I guess.
Yeah, she is like still like two minds still, because she's like slowly like melting to like the Lasso way, but also still very, very hurt and raw from what she recently went through and is still kind of still going through. So she's like at this like weird kind of dyad of trying like healing sort of, but reverting at the same time. And it's like both of those, I'm gonna stop doing those hands because that kind of looks weird.
She's going through the grieving process, and it's one step forward and two steps back.
But when you get
and probably sees that betrayal from Higgins is like, oh great, another man has hurt me. Like, it just, she's not thinking. I think she wanted to buy in and do it, and then it just set her back. Exactly.
Yeah. And now the more we've talked about it, the more I'm like, Rupert, because in episode before, one before that, she mentions how she's got a friend at the Sun or knows someone at the Sun. Rupert knows that person too. He could be paying them to run these stories to piss her off. The more I think about it.
That's true. That's true.
Since she's destroying his team, he could know the game she's playing because he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. And speaking of games that are being played, Jamie will no longer be playing for AFC Richmond at this point, because come the next morning, Coach Beard, with looking all kind of somber and sad
Somber.
himself. Yeah, somber and sad himself. Tells something that we don't see on screen, but we then cut to basically that next scene of like this kind of first
Ted
time that we
cursing.
see, yeah, like Ted like confronting Rebecca like in a way that's not like he's trying to confront her, but he's still being friendly about it. And he's like, I hope these aren't good at all for because he gives her the biscuits.
They're the
but,
best
like,
batch.
he's like, gosh darn it, they're the best batch yet. I cracked it. So
Which I had a question on that. Was this the first? Oh, this his revelation that he makes them to her, or did he already say that?
oh yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if she or like registered that when he says that, or if he even registered that he was, you know, telling her at that point that he was the one making them.
Hmm.
I don't know, that actually went over my head though too until you just said that. So that's
That was the
interesting.
first thing that hit me after a second. I was like, "Wait, is this the first time?" So
Oh, yeah.
I need to reenact that.
So as that wraps up like the main plot, like what were some of your favorite quotes that we haven't said yet from the episode? Bonnie and Mike.
The master
Or me-
stroke line
Oh yeah.
was pretty funny. I don't know the exact quote, but Ted's
He's
reaction.
like,
I don't think we can
he's
say
like,
that
I
at the
don't think we
workplace
can
anymore.
say that anymore. Yeah. I had that on there too.
Yeah, that was fun. We already talked about the man with the plan and Flan and Flun, and again, if I can talk about Buffy, I will. One of my favorite Buffy quotes is when she says, "I am the plan," and if that is not the energy I have for this year, I don't know what is. But I love that one.
Nice.
Perfect.
That reminds me of the Iron Man quote too, where he's like, "I have a plan, attack," like the plan of attack thing. We already did all the ghost one. Oh yeah, oh boy, I tell you, man, I feel like we fell out of a lucky tree, hit every branch on the way down, ended up in a pool full of cash and Sour Patch Kids. I love that one in
That
there.
was good.
And then the other Ted one that I liked was, "Gentlemen, I am by nature a believer. Ghost, spirit guides, aliens. Still, I can't actually tell you what lives beyond our physical world and what doesn't. What I can tell you is that, with the exception of the wit and wisdom of Calvin Hobbes, not much lasts forever." So I liked that quote too, because it again kind of showed you again who Ted is, this person, and also state of mind he's in this pet. While he's also making like this tiny like little reference to like something that he enjoys as well. And then I'm gonna use this next one to kind of segue into the kind of like foreshadowing character stuff. And I think I saw that you had a note about it too, Bonnie. Was that Sam said that, "I like the idea of someone becoming rich because of what they gave to the world, not just because of who their family is." And I had wrote, and you wrote something similar to this, so I'll pass it off to you, because we basically said the same thing about who that scene was actually about, or he was referencing that.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling. That didn't age very well.
Yeah, I was like, well,
but then that's a whole separate thing about celebrate the art from the artist, and that's a conversation for another time for our group. But yeah.
But I was like, yeah, that's unfortunate, Sam. That's too bad.
Well, there's that unfortunateness, and then the not slow, but the hold on Rebecca, the shot. You see her being uneasy, thinking about that, because she is now rich, and what is she doing with the money? Destroying a football team.
Yeah, and then the scene too, with Sam and Rebecca, like again, a little bit of foreshadowing, and like spoilers if people are, if they're watching for the first time and not rewatching with us. Skip ahead 15 seconds. But with Sam and Rebecca,
Pause it, go watch it, come back.
Sam, well,
we've already done a lot of other spoilers. So.
Yeah, I guess so. But with Sam and Rebecca eventually becoming like a thing in the second season.
What?
I know. Sorry, spoiler. I like this little bit of like a hint of like their chemistry together within this scene, And I remember, I think I saw somewhere too, is like after the scene, like Jason Sudeikis kind of clocked the chemistry that that Toiba Jama and Hannah
I'm
Wadham
sure.
had in this scene too, and he was like, all right, and I think he had already had like something kind of in mind for like the grand idea, but ended up working that into their. We'll talk about that when we get to it, because that relationship
We'll
kind of
get
has some boss and employee kind of things to talk about with that when we get to it, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
My question on that scene is: did Ted send Sam in, or did Sam choose to go in?
That seemed like it was a Sam choice. It seemed like it was. But speaking on that,
I agree. I tend to agree, but I was just
I
curious
did like
what everyone else thought.
the team up of Higgins and Ted with not telling the team that Danny was cool like hours before they did all of that ritual stuff. So it would then seem as them doing that was what helped Danny at that point. So it's like a tiny little like white omission lie that Ted and Higgins do with the team there in a way. But outside of that, was there any other quotes before we get to, or like
I just found
character stuff that
someone else says something weird and I don't understand? I'm going to have one of my son's classic temper tantrums.
Oh yeah, and like call you man names like Poo Poo Pants, or what was another one? Beard Peepee Fingers.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah, Henry, you're a cool kid. And then as we get to the soundtrack, was there any of the music?
Ghosts prefer empty bottles. That was the last one.
Oh yeah, yes. Ghosts prefer empty bottles that we've all drank out of. It's true.
Well-known fact.
Yeah. Was there any music that stood out to you guys in this episode?
I'm gonna have to start paying attention to the music more. I tend to not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I started paying attention to music in different. I guess like in Marvel movies, because I did like a chronological playlist for that, and then the show Umbrella Academy has a really good soundtrack that they compile for each of their seasons. And I don't know who the music supervisor is off the top of my head for this show. I don't know if it's like Sudeikis like in conjunction with somebody else, but it seems like a lot of like choices of stuff that he would have chosen. But I really enjoyed like the Jerk It Out song by the Caesars in here, like when Danny Rojas joins the teams. There's the over, under, sideways, down by the Yardbirds when everyone's placing the stuff in the barrel. And then the Vampire Weekend song for the closing scene for the Harmony Hall. Thought that was great. Oh, and the Sonnet by Faces on Film for the opening song. So there's usually, I've been trying to like highlight them too, like when I've been posting our episodes, places like where like I think Instagram usually gives you places you can choose songs. So I try to like use some of like the highlighted music from there. But that's one of my favorite things about the show too, is just like the soundtrack kind of use, and like usually the themes, like how it's themed very well for that episode, or if you really listen to the lyrics, you can see how it like correlates to like what's going on with the story there too. So it's just something I really enjoy. So I started making a playlist for our rewatch. If people want to, if they use Apple Music, they can follow along with the music as I add it into there as we watch each episode. But was there anything else in this episode that we didn't talk about that you, Bonnie, or you, Mike, would like to say before the whistle is blown? Friesen?
I'm good. I think we covered everything. This was, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going through and what I have written down, and other than Jamie spying on the press conference, I don't have anything else. Like,
Whistle!
I didn't. Oh man. Broke the
you were gonna do it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's gonna do it then for this episode.
Do one of these.
Do it again. Oh, but yeah, people can find Richmond Way many places online. One of them is richmondwaypod.com, and that brings you to our YouTube channel and or a website in the future. We may or may not, by the time this episode is to you, have a Patreon, which that link will be below us if you're looking at us on YouTube.
It'll be here.
Somewhere. Here, there, everywhere. But yeah, you can follow us on all of the social media places, also at Richmond Pod. Basically everywhere. Just look that up on a social media place. That's us, more or less. And then you can find myself on most social medias at my name. Mike, where can they find you? Bonnie?
VOsuperhero.com.
Yeah, there you go.
Took me a minute to remember what it was.
There you go. It's right there. All right, but that's gonna do it for us for this episode of the Richmond Way, and then we'll be back next time for episode 7 of Ted Lasso, which is called "Make Rebecca Great Again." So we'll see you then.
Oh boy!
Bye, everybody.
So until next time, folks, be curious, not judgmental, and keep rewatching. This is Ted Lasso signing off. As the man once said, the harder you work, the luckier you get.